Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Tackling Sport podcast. And we're a tad late here, a few technical difficulties, but we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And it's Daniel here, joined alongside me as always by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
And joined Premier League fan predictions winner from last week, Arsenal fan Brian Murphy, who now all of a sudden is going for 3 in a row, and he's looking very comfortable in that chair there.
Yeah, now look, I'm getting comfy. The curtains are back, and we go again. Took out rough. It was pretty handy, I think, there. So I'll keep marching on, keep doing my best, and hopefully come back again.
Absolutely. And we've gone down the Chelsea route to try and get you beat here, and we're delighted to welcome Conor Swords. Conor, you saw your fellow fan get beaten there, but I'm sure you're determined to make this a regular stint on the Tackling Sport podcast.
Yes, good evening. And yeah, no, definitely. I had to throw that in early, but no, definitely here to try and upset Brian and get a result, just like Villarreal tonight. So let's see how we get on.
Well, listen, we'll stick with you then, Conor, because we're on a Europa League live reaction. What were your thoughts on the Arsenal game? It was a bit of a manic game. I know that United were playing as well, but firstly on Arsenal, and maybe a broader topic on Mikel Arteta, maybe.
Yeah, it was a crazy game, wasn't it? Like, I mean, I was only saying to you there off air, but like the pinnacle of Europe is definitely the Europa League because all the drama's there. I mean, 2 red cards, a penalty disallowed, a penalty given. It was a mad game, but like as I was saying to you, Daniel, I suppose off air, but like my thing is like with Arsenal, they pushed towards the end and they did well, but I mean, Unai Emery comes back, wins against Arsenal in the Europa League, and it's like this is a man who got sacked for losing in a final. So I'm wondering what Mikel Arteta, like he's coming 10th. He's in the semi-finals, potentially going out of the semi-finals. If he loses this next one, like where do you go from there with Mikel Arteta? Like, do you keep him on? Do you want him to go? And if you don't want him to go, why wouldn't you want him to go? Because that's why Emery left, for losing a final in Europe and not getting European football. So that's my thing with Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah, Sean, do you want to come in on Unai Emery maybe?
Well, in fairness, like that was a classic Emery performance from Villarreal. I mean, they were brilliant and all, but it was just chaotic. And you have to remember, Arsenal completely bottled top 4 that year. Absolutely bottled it against Brighton. You know, so many poor results.
But they don't even have the chance to bottle it this year, do they? Like,
but I definitely think Emery had a better squad. I think he'd a better team at that stage. The one thing that you can credit Emery for, and you can probably credit Europa League football for in general, is what it's brought to the young players coming through. No, you know, your Saka, your Smith Rowes, your Balligans. They've all got a chance in Europa League football that they probably wouldn't have otherwise got. But I definitely think that, you know, it's very easy to look back and think, oh, he was a great manager. I think Unai Emery was the wrong man at the wrong time. I think it was a bad appointment by the club in general, more than likely. You know, I do think, look, he's a good manager, but he proved at PSG that he probably was not an elite manager or someone that you could build a club around. And when Arsenal tried to build a club around, I mean, everything just broke around him. But look, it's his competition. You know, he's won it 3 times. He got Arsenal to the final. But I do agree with you. I think if Arteta, you know, he got slightly out of jail tonight because he kind of showed his inexperience, and he got out of jail by Unai Emery's, you know, trademark, the collapse. You know, Arsenal had it, PSG had it, where just everything goes frantic. They all seem to make horrendous decisions, and it can come back to haunt.
Can I just ask because you guys are obviously all the Arsenal fans here, but what did you think of the substitutions? Because I was watching it with an Arsenal fan there, and we were both saying, like, it's very late. Like, it's very late to be bringing on an Aubameyang. It's very late to be, like, and I know the Ceballos red card would have kind of interrupted the flow of the game, but at the same time, I'm thinking, like, you're 2 goals down. It's only 2 legs. Like, and an away goal would be, like, key to the tie. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Martinelli coming on that late, Aubameyang, like, I feel like those should have been changes, like, instantly. And also just the Ceballos one as well. I mean, like, they're talking about in the commentary bit, but, like, he was potentially coming off for El Neni and they kept him on and he gets sent off. I mean, what did you think about the substitutions that Arteta made? Do you think they were too late? Do you think they were the right ones? Or that's just a general, I suppose, to any of you?
Yeah, maybe you go. Brian, do you want to take that one? Just on Ceballos to start with, maybe?
Well, the Ceballos thing was just, I couldn't believe it. I think every fan I was even talking to and on Twitter, everyone was saying, how he's not come off, not only for being on the yellow, he was just playing terribly as well. Like, he just had one of those nights where, like, you just felt he had to come off. We were saying even put Jack into midfield, get Cedric on. Like, it seems simple, and you just don't understand what's kind of going through his head. And then after the yellow card, he's obviously in a bit of danger. Second half comes out, 2 minutes, he's nailed the lad early, and you're thinking, grand, he'll be off in the next 5 or 10, and then goes and gets sent off. So, I mean, it's management 101. Like, you have a lad who's looking to be set, like danger getting sent off, you don't take him off. Like as you said, Mikel's obviously very inexperienced. Obviously, even in European semi-finals, like, it's a big game. But like, it's the basics where you just think, get the lad off. Like, he'd easily be sent off. And obviously, nothing really came of it. Arsenal came back and collapsed for those 20 minutes, and it was obviously huge in the end of for the result. But yeah, it could have been obviously a lot worse. And like a 2-0, Francis Coughlin's hitting no look through balls to your man, and it's a massive save from Leno. If that goes in, I mean, I don't think there's any way you're coming back. So no, those few minutes were huge. But yeah, I think
what I think it's shown, and I'd probably think the last month, I think Mikel Arteta has looked at the squad and gone, I don't trust half of these, and I think that was so telling when he didn't take off Ceballos, that he just doesn't trust El Nene, or he doesn't trust Cedric. The fact that we've got Callum Chambers, who's a centre half, who's done well at right back, but he's still
I was thinking, I didn't even mean to interrupt there, but I was thinking the same thing. I was like, what in the name of Jesus is Callum Chambers doing on the pitch? Like, he's a championship player. Like, I'm not even trying to be like, I'm not even trying to take a piss there. Like, but like, I just don't rate Callum Chambers. I don't know what he brings to the table. And I actually turned around and looked at FootMob, and I was looking at the squad, and I was like, Bellerin's fit, Cedric's fit. What's this guy doing? Like, he was on loan, he couldn't get into, was it West Ham he was at or something? Like, I just don't understand how he's playing in a Europa League semi-final. It's crazy to me. Like,
yeah, and I just think it's the squad. I just think it's so far away from what you're looking at. Even just some of the options that you take, some of the clubs that are still in the competition. Take Manchester United, who are probably shown that they should still be in the Champions League, and they could have done something this year in the Champions League, but. If Arsenal had to break the top four, look at Chelsea's squad. I mean, Chelsea seem to have a half decent player in every position, and I thought it was telling, like I said, that when Ceballos was on a yellow and looked for all money, like he was going to be sent off, that they didn't bring on El Nene because probably doesn't trust him, or he doesn't trust Cedric. And I think Ghana did, like when Emre took over, I think we were probably 2 or 3 players away from top 4 again and trying to build. Like now, I think, God, she's 7 or 8 players, and you'd be doing well to buy them in 2 or 3 windows, So it's a long way back, I think.
And that was the other thing I was saying to one of the lads there. Sorry, so I was literally sitting with an Arsenal fan there, and I said to him, because he was like, his opinion was, if we get Arteta out, get a good manager in, who knows where we'll be. And I was like, but who do you bring? Like, I look at that Arsenal team and I think, like, who would I even bring in to try and fix the problems that are there? Because for me, like, the whole back line nearly needs to go. Like, I don't trust, apart from Kieran Tierney, who unfortunately has his injury troubles. But like, aside from him, I don't like Rob Holding. I don't like Pablo Mari. I don't even know what Pablo Mari is really. Is he a ball playing centre back? Is he a man marker? I don't even know what he is. And then obviously Chambers, Bellerin don't seem to have the goods. Like, I think there's, like you're saying there, Sean, there's a lot of rebuilding to be done in Arsenal. But I just wouldn't know where to even start. That's my thing. I'm like, where do you start?
Yeah, well, the worst thing I think about the Callum Chambers, and I'd agree, he's probably not good enough, and I actually gave a little dig at him a few weeks ago. He's actually he's probably one of our best players at the moment in terms of like the crosses he's put into the box, and I think that kind of shows where we've fallen. And Brian, I want to kind of get your maybe take on kind of some of the stuff Conor was saying there, maybe in terms of like the likes of Callum Chambers, the fact he's starting ahead of Bellerin. And again, take Conor, for example, he's looking at it from a Chelsea point of view. So he's just looking at neutral going, why is Bellerin not playing? And I know Aubameyang's just back, but let's be honest with you, there's something going on there with him and Arteta. I know there's been out extenuating circumstances, but what are your thoughts really on those couple of points?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole Callum Chambers thing, I was 100% would have started him tonight. I think he's been in good form. Like, and Bellerin's just dropped off. Whenever he's got the opportunity, he's just been poor. Like, you saw him at Fulham the other week, and I actually felt sorry for him out there. Like, he just looked completely out of his depth. I don't know what it is, what's going on in his, I don't know, personal or something like that, but he wasn't at the races. And then I thought Chambers came in again. We saw him that first game against West Ham, obviously against Burnley as well. But the West Ham game, he was man of the match, and from then on, I think he's deservedly staying in there right back. But across the line, you look at it. I think if you're to be told at the start in August, September that you're a semi-final Europa League, back four, beat Granit Xhaka, Marie Holding, and Chambers, you'd be asking a couple of questions. But like, if David Luiz is fit, Tierney's fit, they're obviously both playing. So it's one of those things. But no, I'd be 100% going Chambers ahead of Bellerin. And in regards to Aubameyang, I would like seeing him earlier. I think he came on in the 80s or 80 something minute, and like, you would hope that you kind of go for them. It's 10 on 10, and you get behind. So obviously he's not 100%. We know he had Malaria and everything, but you'd wonder if there's other stuff that played in the background with there, but hopefully, obviously he'll be the first to say he's had a terrible season. So I think, it's a case of just, hopefully dust himself down and go again next year. But
he's one like questions. I can't put my finger on Aubameyang at all because I it's funny, like we do I don't know about you lads, we do FPL draft every year, me and my mates, and I had
just I think there's 4 different draft leagues going on here. Just I think we all play draft. Yeah, so.
But like
I'm
an absolute nerd for it. So like I do it like a spreadsheet as to like who I would rank, like where I'd put them. And I had Aubameyang, like I saw he was a midfielder, and I was like, oh, that's like my top. Like if I get first pick, I'd probably go De Bruyne and maybe Salah, and then I go Aubameyang or something. And like I am just like I'm looking at the lad who got him. I'm like, you poor man. Like I mean, like because it's so out of the blue. It really is, because the guy has been elite for like 2. I mean, like about 2 years ago, you would have been like, for the last 2 years, you could have actually had a debate about like Harry Kane or Pierre Aubameyang. Like I mean, who would you rather have starting up front for you? And this year, it's just been crazy because I don't know what's been going on with him, but like it just seems in and out of that Arsenal team. And then, but like I have to say, when he came on tonight, he actually got himself a good opportunity, and I was thinking, like, I think was it the 93rd minute or something? It was a beautiful turn, but I was thinking to myself, like, a year ago, does he put that away? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird, like it's crazy how it just changes in a year. And then I'd also say, like, in terms of in a year, like a year ago, I was looking at Pepe, being like, what is the story with this guy? And I was even saying to you, Daniel, during the game, I actually thought Pepe had a good game today. I thought like Juan Foyth couldn't deal with him. It's just that end product, I suppose, when it comes to him. But with Aubameyang, I don't know. I actually just don't know what's going on with him at the moment. It's bizarre.
Yeah, before we get into predictions, that final point on Arsenal, and 2 players kind of string to mind, and lads have got a lot of views. Granit Xhaka and David Luiz. I'd love to get Brian and Sean's take maybe on the 2 lads, maybe to you, Brian, in terms of, are those players, like, they get a lot of stick off the fans? I know Granit Xhaka was out of position, but he still made a mistake against Fulham. Is that stick warranted? Like, are we missing David Luiz at the moment? Is that a ridiculous thing to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think Xhaka is pivotal, and at the moment, the way how this team's playing, David Luiz is fairly pivotal as well. I mean, he's done all right this season. I think I wouldn't be like, you're not overly excited to see him starting, but I think what you miss in David Luiz and what you gain from a different centre half are not like nowhere near the same. So I think having Xhaka out in the left, he's obviously done a good job. You couldn't say he's been poor out there. Obviously, bar the Everton game where he got skinned. I think he's been very consistent. And centre mid, he's been, I think, I put a small shout for him behind Saka for player of the season. Like, I think he's just completely solid, and he's playing every single game. So yeah, I'm against the Xhaka haters out there. I think he's fairly important to the team.
There's a lot of them out there now.
There's a lot of them, and like David Luiz, like the contract would be interesting to see, because I'd give him one more year. Earlier on in the season I would have said no, but I think just, even if you're not going to have him as your main man, you just have him in there. He seems like a decent fella. So if he's up for staying and doing a bit part role, playing half the games, I'd 100% be doing it, because like he offers you a different type of centre back. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that contract, but hopefully he signs on. But yeah, I think you definitely missed him on nights like these, or him especially, and then you have the Tierney and having Xhaka not in centre mid, you missed that. So yeah, definitely for me.
Sean?
Yeah, no, you got to build your squad, not get rid of too many key parts, and I'd be keeping both of them. But
what are your thoughts on both of them in general, Sean?
Well, look, I think they're decent players, but I think everyone wants Arsenal fans want to get back to the top, and I think both are good players. Obviously, David Luiz has won a lot in his career, but I think they just make too many mistakes. I think they make 1 or 2 mistakes too many that you can't really do. So definitely think there is a problem.
That's common there for the Clonkeens. Conor, last one before we move on to the Premier League predictions. Xhaka and David Luiz. What are you with David Luiz at Chelsea for years? What were your thoughts on him as a player at the time? And I know he's past his peak now at this stage.
Do you know what's funny? And like I think one of my mates was watching this who would have given me abuse over this. I actually said at the start of the season I'm a big Granit Xhaka fan, which is actually hilarious now, because I actually think he's had a good season. I think he obviously makes a lot of mistakes, but I mean, like, you're looking for, like, when you look at the Arsenal team, right? And this isn't, I swear to God, I'm not taking a slide at Arsenal, but what are you missing? Like, you're missing leaders, talkers, but lads who are demanding stuff on the pitch. Granit Xhaka, like, for all his flaws, he actually is that. Like, he's a presence on the pitch, and on top of that, he's a great man for putting in a tackle. He gets stuck in. Like, I've watched Chelsea play him in in the FA Cup final, like, last year, and in the 3-1 this year. I thought he was, like, the free kick he put in was unbelievable. Now, obviously, that's a rarity, but he still had a good game. And I think he actually is one of those guys, he gets a bit misunderstood, because he'll go into a game and he doesn't necessarily do the flashiest things in the world. He's kind of sideways passing, and he's putting in slide tackles, but he does the dog work and he gets it done. And then obviously, I think the things that really stand against him are when he makes those mistakes. I can't remember who the team was, but flicking the ball into your man's chest in front of goal, like giving
Burnley
goals
away.
Burnley, like stupid goals like that, obviously don't do many favors. But he's a good player. As far as David Luiz goes, I think he's like a 3-game big player. Like you'd have three or 4 games a season, and he's just elite. And you're like, where's this guy coming from? And then the next week he's just heading the ball to a striker, giving it away slow, giving away 4 penalties in a season. So, like, as far as I'd be going, I'd be saying keep Granit Xhaka for sure, but I'd be ditching. Like, I just think David Luiz is another Chelsea retirement home player at Arsenal, and I wouldn't have any of them. I wouldn't have any of them at Arsenal.
I was laughing because it just when he starts playing well in that 3-game period, I'll say David Luiz, serious player, and then I'll do something.
Yeah, it's gone.
And he breaks my heart, and I have to shut up for a week. But let's move on to Premier League fan predictions, lads. We're going to go to the Champion first. For those that haven't watched before or listened before, it's 3 points for correct score, 1 point for correct result, and the winner stays on. And we're just off the back of Shane getting, was it 6 in a row? Possibly 7, Jesus, I can't remember. And Brian broke that streak, and all of a sudden he's sneaking in 2 in a row. He's going for 3 in a row here. Brian, it's a Friday night game. It's my Southampton, my second team. That's falling apart, that bandwagon, against Leicester and repeated the FA Cup semi-final. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, the semi-final, at the end of the judgment, it's got to be just for me a Leicester win, comfortable enough. I have down 2-0. I think Saints are just, I'll have a go at Ralph every week. He's lost his head since that emotional night being Klopp, and I think they've just been on a down slope ever since that. And yeah, I can see Leicester keep the charge up for the top 4. They're a massive win there, and the other night Kelechi clutching up as usual. I think he'll keep the run going, get another one on Friday. And yeah, I think it'll be comfortable 2-0. Maybe Saints will turn up, but I think it'll be a fairly easy 2-0 win for Leicester.
Up to you, Connor.
Do you know what's funny? I actually did, and like this kind of comes back to what I was saying about the fantasy league. Like I'm an absolute nerd for this stuff, so I actually wrote it all out beforehand. And funny enough, I have 2-0 Leicester as well, so I'm not copying it, Brian. I swear to God, I actually it sends you pictures.
Like in Countdown, and have to show it.
But no, I agree. I agree with everything he's saying. I think like for me as well, when it gets to this point in the season, you have to think like who's playing for what. And I think Southampton are a team where like they're on the beach at this stage. Like there's nothing really for them to go for, whereas Leicester are really pushing on for top 4. And then like you look at the team for Southampton, I think Danny Ings is actually missing this weekend. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's injured this weekend. So you kind of think where are those goals actually going to come from? And then you look at Leicester and like Kelechi Iheanacho is just absolutely firing on all cylinders, which is just crazy. I don't know what they're feeding him over there at Leicester, but like I think it's like 12 goals in 12 games or something like that for them. It's some mad record like that. But anyway, he's eclipsing Vardy at the moment and he's doing the business. James Maddison's back from injury. He's looking to get into the England team. I'd be agreeing with Brian there. I'm going the exact same 2-0 Leicester.
Boring start. So Sean, you're as our resident expert, Sean. Thoughts on what the lad said there. Basically, Iheanacho swap roles with Vardy essentially in terms of the goals. Anyway.
Yeah, I like the 2 up front. I know a lot of teams don't use it, and Villarreal actually had 2 up front tonight, and I think it does kind of work if you can fit around it. And obviously Leicester have this year with 3 at the back, and they kind of were forced into it at the start of the season with no Wilfred Ndidi, and they wanted to get an extra body back there, and I think it has seemed to work for them. And obviously Rodgers is doing a great job, and Iheanacho has found some form and probably delivering on some of the promise he had at Man City. I know he never really got a full opportunity similar to what Jesus has now, but no, it's definitely working for them at the moment. This was the scene of the 9-0 game. It's also the scene of another emotional Southampton win at the end of the Premier League season with fans. Did a big win at the King Power. Look, it's hard to know at Southampton. I see Ings is out for the season now, so I wouldn't really give them much hope. They're kind of on the beach. They had their run. Look, Leicester need the win, and they're flying. And I think what I would say, Leicester have a great squad. You know, they don't have too many areas where, you know, if their left back goes down injured, well, you know, they can bring in Pereira, or Castagna can come in, or Brighton can go in a right wing back, and they can shuffle around, and good centre half. So I think Leicester are well placed again for another couple of years, and Champions League football will be massive for them. So, you know, I'll go Leicester to win.
That's the win. Both lads went for 2-0 away as well. So we're going to go for Crystal Palace versus Manchester City. Connor, we'll go to you this time. Pep Guardiola there, I suppose maybe talk a little bit about that PSG win. What a massive win. I didn't feel like it was a great game. I didn't feel they might have 100% this. I think it was more PSG threw it away, but it was a big win for Pep regardless, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought and not to fall into the line of cliches, I suppose, Daniel, but I mean a game of two halves for sure. I thought PSG I think PSG tired themselves out in the first half. Like I was watching it with my meow lad, and I was like, look at the press they're putting on them. Like they're literally giving them no space, and obviously that's City's whole game, and that's why City have had trouble with Liverpool for years. It's like getting no time on the ball. But then as it wore into the second half, you just see them the free kick they gave away. Is a perfect example. Like Phil Foden, that was a lazy tackle from the PSG lad. I think it was Paredes, but just didn't have the same legs they did. But I thought City just showing something they haven't shown in the last few years as well, which is a bit of bottle in a big game like that, and actually going and being look, we're down here, but this isn't away from us at all. And in those games, and you know this, sometimes a bit of luck, a shitty De Bruyne cross that just finds its way past Keylor Navas. That's all it takes. And I thought they saw the game out well. And as far as Crystal Palace goes, I mean, again, Sean was saying it as well, but I mean, teams on the beach. I mean, they want to talk about a team on the beach. Crystal Palace are they're drinking the tequilas on the beach. They couldn't give a hoot about this season at this stage. They're nice and safe. City are 6 points off, I think, winning the league. So I think and I usually say as well in Champions League, if a team might be there might be some fatigued legs, but I mean, Pep could put out his third team and he'd probably end up beating the Crystal Palace team. I will be going for 3-0 on this one, because I just don't think Crystal Palace have the juice to get the goals either. I think it's down to Wilfried Zaha, and let's be honest, there's no real motivation for him at the moment either, to push on for this either. So I just think City are going to cruise that one. I think it'll be 3-0. I think it'll be 3 points off winning the league then at that stage.
Yeah, hard to argue with anything said there, really, Brian, I take it.
Yeah, City are pretty impressive in that second half. Yeah, no, look, fair play to them. It'd be nice to see them, I think, in a final. I don't like PSG, but I don't know who want to win that, but no, obviously, fair play to them with going out and win that. For Saturday, though, I went a bit more cager. I think he'll be standard pepper roulette. He'll just put out some wacky team. Probably give Aguero a start. He's probably due one at this stage. He's heading off. So I think it'll be a bit cagey, not as big as 3-0. So I went for a 2-1 win. I think maybe Mateta might get a goal for Palace, something like that. But I think it'll just be a cager match and a nice 2-1 win to keep him going.
You sound like a victim. I don't think anyone's not been a victim of Pep Roulette. Sean, quick word on this game.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that obviously Selhurst Park is a difficult ground to go, but I think what Crystal Palace have is they've got 12 or 13 players that are going to be out of contract, and whether they get signed up by Palace or they get signed up by another club, so they're going to have to put in a couple of big performances, and if they can get a big win there, and that's what they're playing for now. They're playing for their contract in their future, because you look at some of the teams that are coming up, Norwich, Watford, I don't think necessarily any of them are going to be in for some of the Palace players. Maybe Watford, Norwich definitely won't go near any of the Palace players. So if they want to stay in the Premier League, they're going to have to put in a few big performances and try and get, that one last payday if you're Gary Cahill, because I can't imagine Palace giving them a new deal.
Gary Gale, of course, former Chelsea centre-back there, Connor. But Brighton Leeds United. We'll stick with you, Connor, for this one. So it's a Leicester and City away win so far for the lads. Leeds United have been very impressive, and it's almost like they're slowly getting a tad more consistent, I think.
Yeah, there was this narrative. It was actually funny because Karen Carney was on the punditry tonight, wasn't she? And she was the one who was saying essentially that Leeds were going to slow down, or Leeds had slowed down. And it's just hilarious to me, because now you look at this stage of the season and Leeds are pushing on. They're four wins and 5. I think the other one's a draw. I'm not 100% on that, but they're absolutely flying it. But I'm actually going to go against the grain, and this is something that I'll get hammered for now, because the lads are always slagging me in my football group with this. But I'm a big Graham Potter man, and I'm a big Brighton man. I genuinely, I'm big on these analytics. I don't know if you guys look in, but XG and stuff. Brighton are the anti-XG. They have so much goal potential that they just miss. Their West Brom game there recently is just the epitome of Brighton. They score a free kick from Lewis Dunk. It gets disallowed. It gets allowed. It gets disallowed. Then they miss 2 penalties and lose the game 1-0. I actually think there's so much more to that team than is being shown on the results that they've gotten recently. And as far as expected goals against, I think they're 3rd in the league or something. So they're not actually giving up a lot of big chances. They're just conceding screamers like the Reece James one at the start of the season, or just mad goals. I've watched them play teams like United off the pitch and lose 3-2. I've watched them play Chelsea off the pitch and lose 3-1. And then you watch them play Liverpool and beat them 1-0. So, and just given Leeds away form as well. I mean, they've lost to Crawley away. They've lost to United 6-2 away. They even lost to fucking Arsenal 4-2 away. So, they were shite as well that day. So I'm going to go Brighton 1-0. I think they will hold them off. and I think they'll scrape win because Brighton need the points. They really need the points, and I don't think. I mean, like, look, Leeds are on a good run and they're doing fantastic, but like, I think they're kind of at where they should be at. I think Brighton are going to push on. I think Brighton will get a 1-0 win.
Okay, so the door could be open for you here, Brian, if you're thinking Leeds or maybe a draw.
Yeah, I went for a 1-1 draw. I just think, obviously Brighton let me down losing to the worst team in the Premier League this season. Couldn't believe it. They've gone down my estimations now after that. But I think that Brighton won the first game as well. They 1-0. So I was thinking maybe Brighton, but I just think Leeds has looked impressive the last few weeks, and they're definitely looking like they're more of a consistent team. Like, you're kind of going to get now each week when you see them play. And like Brighton, they're obviously probably safe now, so they're going to have that in the back pocket. And they're so bad against Sheffield United. Well, if you don't beat them, you're just a terrible team. So I just think that they don't. I honestly can't say I get over, but anyway, so 1-0. Nice boring game. Yeah,
Sean, what about Conor's thoughts there? I know you've had strongish opinions, not against Graham Potter, but maybe he's not. Like, teams sometimes better be careful that they're going to end this project because Brighton could essentially finish like one team off getting relegated this year.
No, like my more issue is with managers coming out and kind of saying and kind of going in that loophole of, we aren't where our results suggest, like this kind of. I remember Roberto Martinez was a big one at Everton for that. Well, you're not going to last long in a job if you're underperforming on what you're expected to do. They had a brilliant win against Leeds. It was a Saturday, 3:00. I remember watching it, and it was one day when they were in real trouble. And I think they got a 1-0 win away at Ellen Road. So, look, Brighton obviously they know where they need to strengthen in the summer, but every club in the world will know that they need a striker. So every club is going to be charging them top dollar. Whether they go for someone like even Tony at Brentford, I mean, he's going to cost mega bucks to get him out. And I think if Brentford get promoted, then it'll be even more. So I'd just be interested to see who they do end up with. But this would be a game between two really good coaches. You wouldn't know where to go with this, but maybe a 0-0 draw.
Just got a comment in here. Thanks for the kind words, Mankel. But Leeds United 3, Arsenal 2, Sunday, May the 4th, 2003, and Viduka scored after the 88 minutes. And I'll tell you exactly where I was. I was in the Killiney, what's now the Fitzpatrick Hotel. I think it was a different name at the time. And I bawled my eyes out crying after that because Arsenal, it was officially the day that United won the league and Arsenal couldn't win the league. And I honestly bawled my eyes out crying. There's no worse feeling in the world. And I think back to those days now and just think of how much worse things are now. We're 10th in the league, for God's sake. Like, Jesus.
There's worse things than conceding to Mark Viduka, isn't there?
It can always get worse.
Leeds have gone away for 14 years, 16 years, had financial difficulties, had people like Steve Evans managing them, been in the High Court about 5 times for financial reasons, and they're ahead of us in the league.
They're chasing. It's Arsenal chasing Leeds then, isn't it? Like, it's like Leeds are 9th, Arsenal 10th. It's crazy.
It's Leeds, Arsenal, Villa. It's actually a great little mid race from 9th to 10th. Yeah, little battle. But listen, because of the Chelsea fan here, Conor, we'll stick with you. Chelsea at home to Fulham. Tell us what it's like having Thomas Tuchel. Were you heartbroken or not with Frank Lampard? And obviously that Champions League performance in midweek.
It was so funny last week, lads, listening to, I think it's Rob, is it? But I've never heard someone sum up my feelings more in like a few sentences. I was pissing myself because he was just like, I was heartbroken and instantly Tuchel out, which is exactly what I was because I just love Frank, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have all that sentiment. And then he was like, he's a lovable weirdo, which is just so true. I mean, he's just such an oddball when you look at him in press conferences. But at the same time, the man is just like, he's the epitome of German football. He's just so well organized. Like, the back line, when you think about what Chelsea were under Frank Lampard and you look at Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel, it's literally like a swap over. I mean, like, they were this attractive attacking team under Lampard now, a lot of crossing and all that. But you look at under Tuchel and put like leaky defense. You look under Tuchel, it's like they're just so hard to play against. And that's what I thought against Madrid. And when I was looking at them playing in the tournament, like my old lad's a Chelsea fan as well, and like I said to him, I was like, we're not the best team in this tournament by a long shot, but we're one of the hardest teams to play against in Europe. I mean, it's very difficult to get a rhythm going with that back five, and some of the players he's getting performances out of are just ridiculous. Like, I completely sacked off Christensen after the Liverpool game with Mane. Like, when he rugby tackled him, I was like, man, get that Danish fraud out of my second team. Like, I'm sick of looking at him. And now he's one of the best ball playing centre backs in the Premier League. And Jorginho, like regista supreme in the centre, just absolutely fantastic. But as far as the Fulham game goes, look, and I actually looked this up. In the last 10 years, Fulham have never beaten Chelsea. Isn't that crazy? And the last time they actually scored,
full stop, never beaten them.
Never beaten them. Well, in the full stop. Jesus, yeah. That is crazy. That's crazy. Because like the stats I was getting were from 10 years ago. I think the last time they got a draw was 2012, which is just nuts. So I mean, no bias and no cap, but I have to go with Chelsea. So I'm gonna go Chelsea to win by 2-0. Now I will say that a prerequisite to this, Chelsea are the Robin Hood of the league, shall we say, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. I mean, I think we've given points to Wolves. We gave points to Wolves. We gave West. I mean, like, I can't go with the podcast let's say in the West Brom game. Jesus Christ, 5-2 to West Brom. Drew with Southampton twice, and we even lost to Arsenal. So I mean, like, Jesus. I mean, when you think about it, all the lower ranked teams are taking points off. But I'll stick with my Chelsea boys. And I'll go 2-0 Chelsea.
No, sorry, I meant full stop as in like 10 years, but they haven't beat you at all. But yeah, as you were talking and you're talking about Tuchel, for some reason it actually went West Brom in my head, going frauds in the back of my head. I don't know why. So the fact you said that and brought that up is good. Is good going. Brian, would you agree? And Chelsea, Fulham, can you give Fulham any sort of squeak here? They're pretty much gone, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to go Chelsea win, but now that he's done that, I'll go against that.
Wow.
I'll stick to my guns, and as you talk about Tuchel being a weirdo, I do agree. He's a strange man. He seems like an evil villain or something. Like he seems like
a bad Bond villain or something.
Just constantly like plotting something to try and hurt someone. But no, I'm gonna go for a 0-0. I just think most boring football in the league Chelsea have, and I think knocking the door. The two teams going at it for a while, and it's a nice 0-0. Fulham, I think, are just dreadful London derbies. I think they haven't ever won. Like not ever. Last 27 games and then won a London derby, something like that. So
I drew with you last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were 1-0. We were close to getting that London derby, but no.
Excellent, Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I also started on Eddie.
Yeah, Fulham should be more fresh than Chelsea. Like they got a week off last week as well, so I think like you'd have to hope Scotty P will get the boys going at them. But no, I think it'd be a nice 0-0 boring game.
Yeah, I know, Sean, you really wanted Thomas Tuchel. Not that we ever had the opportunity, but when he went to Chelsea, you're like, Arsenal obviously could have done with him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one when the fans get back, because you got to remember Chelsea fans, they're quite particular. They got Sarri out. They didn't like Sarri. They didn't fancy him. They got rid of him, despite winning the Europa League and getting to the infamous Carabao Cup final with Kepa. Chelsea fans are quite particular in the style of football they like as well. And I'm not, some of Tuchel's performances, they do lack that kind of entertainment, and I think Chelsea fans are very like that. And also, I mean, I think if he wins them the Champions League again, which I wouldn't be too sure, especially with Real Madrid, I think they're kind of a second leg specialist. But I think if he wins in the Champions League, all well and good, and wins an FA Cup. But I think if he loses maybe even one, or especially the FA Cup final, and he doesn't win a trophy this year, be interesting to see how Chelsea fans take to them, because they are quite a particular set of fans at Stamford Bridge. And you got to remember they got rid of Frank, and they want to see results. And it'd be interesting, because he definitely does lack that entertainment value. It'd be interesting to see, does he change at all when fans do get back into the stadiums? And I think a lot of these players are gonna struggle, and managers are gonna have to change how they deal with it. But I do like Tuchel. I think he's a very good coach. He got very unlucky, I think, with PSG over the years, and the problem with PSG is there's so many great players. You can't rely on people like Neymar to put in a good performance, or Di Maria. Never know what you're going to get out of them. But I was impressed with Chelsea the other night, and it's one of those mysteries that Frank wasn't getting the best out of Kante, and Kante showed the other night just how good he is. One of the most electric midfielders probably I think I've ever seen. He has that just pure ability and natural fitness and running ability, and Chelsea are an absolute different team to what they were under Frank. And I think if Tuchel gets a transfer window, gets rid of probably a couple of players he doesn't like, probably gets rid of Tammy. I wonder what they're going to do with a striker. Do they go with Werner? But yeah, Chelsea are going to win the league in 2 or 3 years, and I think that's the difference between I think Chelsea, with the way they are, and the owner Abramovich is, Chelsea are never more than 2 or 3 years away from winning a league title, and I think that's why they've had sustained success, really.
Yeah, to touch on what you said there, Sean, I actually completely agree with you in terms of the style of play, and that is a huge thing, because when Sarri was in, I know for a fact, and like just my own friends who are Chelsea fans, well, they didn't like that style of play. They didn't like the pass and the ball sideways, patient football. And now Thomas Tuchel isn't exactly that. I mean, he's more of a kind of a regimented, structured kind of coach, and it's more defense first, I suppose, is more the tactic as opposed to ball possession. But it will be interesting to see how that goes. Now, my big thing is, like, when fans get back and saying when we've a transfer window, I really want to see what he does with the back line, because at the moment I think he's going safety. I think he's going, like I've said it before, but that German option, like safety first, like he's going 5 at the back, the 2 wing backs, and then I'll be really interested to see if he tries to go for 4 at the back when he gets the transfer window. I think there's talks of Nicolas Sula coming in at centre back. I don't necessarily know if I'm sold on Nicolas Sula, to be quite honest with you. I think he's a big lump.
He seems a bit slow, doesn't he?
He's a big lump. Like he's just another young German lad playing for Bayern. He's just getting a load of clout. Like, I'm not really that sold on Nicolas Sula. But as far as like the striker situation goes, that's one thing I will comment on, in terms of, I don't want to, you can put me on the record on this, I don't want to sell Tammy Abraham at all. I think it's a terrible mistake to sell Tammy Abraham. When you have a player who's the top goal scorer for every club he's played at for the last however many years, even this season, he's still got 6 goals, the same as Timo Werner. And like, honest to God, I'm watching it every week, and like, I'm a huge Timo Werner fan, and like, I don't know, like Daniel, you might have seen this when I'm putting up those polls and stuff like that, but I was clamoring for Timo Werner to come to Chelsea, really wanted him to come to Chelsea, but it has to be on merit. And I mean, like, I genuinely think, like, the guy, that chance against Real Madrid, I mean, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, like, and then you go back, like, some lad linked me this the other day, and I swear to God, fact to God, you can look up Timo Werner miss, and there's about 9 things that come down. There's like Macedonia, Real Madrid, West Ham, and this is all in the matter of a few weeks. Tammy Abraham puts that in the net every day of the week. So like, I don't want to sell Tammy Abraham. I don't know what the story is though in terms of the transfer window. I don't know what they'll do. I think a centre back is definitely a priority. I think we need to get, the biggest thing for Chelsea is we need to get people out of that club. I never want to see Marcus Alonso play another game for Chelsea. I want him out of there. I want Kepa out of there if they can manage to get him out of there. I want him out of there. Like Ross Barkley, Bakayoko, all the dead wood that's coming back, get rid of all that as well. But I do agree as well. I think like the project that Tuchel has, if he can win over the fans in the next few years, it is very exciting for Chelsea fans, because they're tough to play against right now, and obviously they're not taking their chances as they should be. But I think once that starts to flow, once he starts to get his own rhythm in and his own players in, it could be very exciting to see where Chelsea end up.
But I do think it like the Frank, in 5 years' time, people will forget about the Frank Lampard era, but it's got to be important that he has opened the door for Hudson-Odoi and Mount.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing with Tammy Abraham is, I've no doubt if he went to Manchester United, he scored 15, 20 goals a year.
100%.
But I don't think he's a striker for a top club. I don't think he holds the ball up well, or can link plays in and around the box like maybe a Giroud will. And I think he's a dynamite finisher. He knows what a goal is, and I think he like, if Chelsea do let him go, they've got to make sure that they're not strengthening a rival. They're not strengthening, say, for example, an Arsenal or a Leicester or someone like that, because Tammy Abraham will score goals.
West Ham are the favourites from at the moment, but I have to say on that point where it's he doesn't link play, I think that's a myth. I really do, because like if you watch him against Barnsley, him and Kai Havertz have had the best chemistry of any Chelsea attack this season. I think he set up the 3 goals. I think he did a dummy. I know it's Barnsley. I know I don't want to get ahead.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah,
I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But if you look, if we're looking at purely from a football perspective, I mean, like, he had a dummy, he had like layoffs to Kai. Like, I really think like the guy has a lot more in him then is being kind of like, and I do get the point that Sean's making, like, look, he isn't the finished product yet at all. But I mean, he's a young lad, and he's still the top goal. He's 15 goals last year in the Premier League, no penalties. 15 goals. Like, you'd pay dynamite for that at the moment in the league, like to get a striker that could do that for you. And just to touch on the point you made as well, like Frank's impact on the club, and I think this is something that's getting really understated. Like Mason Mount, like Jesus, Mary and Joseph, the amount of times I've gone on Twitter and seen people with Callum Hudson profile pictures saying that Mason Mount can't play football, and I am so vindicated in the fact that guy is now like look at him against Real Madrid. Like, what an absolute star! Like, I just think he's made for big games. He's made to be a big player. And like, that all came from Frank Lampard putting the confidence into him. And I think everyone got a bit shaky when Tuchel didn't start him at the start. But now Thomas Tuchel sees exactly what everyone who has a pair of eyes can see, which is that Mason Mount is the future of English football. One absolute baller.
Yeah, Sean, final point on Tammy there very briefly. Can you hold the ball up before we move on?
I'm not sure at the elite level. I think he's got I think he could well get pocketed by big centre halves in the Premier League, and I think it has been proven. But I've no doubt he can develop it. He definitely can develop it. But I'd be interested to see where he goes, because I think he's a goal scorer. Do I ever think he's ever going to be good enough to be England's number 9 or be Chelsea's number 9, particularly in a title winning season? I think we'll wait and see. But I definitely think he's a big career ahead of him, because Conor's right. Wherever he's gone, he scored goals. He's a big reason Villa are in the Championship.
We'll go on to Everton Villa, and we'll go to you, Brian. How do you see this game going? Moving on.
I'll go for another draw here. I actually realised looking through it, I was trying to see, what the result was earlier on in the season. They actually haven't played each other yet. I don't know how that's still happened, but that first game still hasn't been played. So they're like,
whoa, so Everton Villa hasn't been played?
No, yeah, it hasn't been played yet.
It was COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so they're a game behind, but they haven't played each other, so it's real weird. I was trying to see the information on the last game, but yeah, and it's not scheduled yet. Like it's not on the fancy app to go into fixtures or anything. So I don't know where that's going to be put in. But yeah, no, I think I'm going to go for the Desmond 2-0. I think Everton had that last one against Spurs. I don't know, like Villa disappointed enough last few weeks, like just about getting their draw at West Brom. Everton obviously beating Arsenal, but like, come on, they were so bad. That second half, they were terrible. And like as Ancelotti said, no way they deserve to win that game. So like you can't be taking too much away from that result. Now half Berlino throwing the ball into the back of the net, and VAR's scumming Arsenal. So like, take your wins where you get them, but like you can't be taking too much confidence from it, I don't think. So yeah, I go for the 2-0 Desmond. That's fine. The first Desmond of the night, Connor. Everton Villa.
I swear to God, I think Brian's after hacking into my computer and getting all my score predictions from Brian. No, I haven't got it 2-2. I've got it 1-1, and I'm kind of a similar vein to Brian in terms of like, I just think it's two teams. Like Everton are still pushing on for that top 4 finish, but I mean, they're really what you say, like they're all bark no bite or something. But you know what I mean? Like they're just the start of the season, they look like they were really coming on. I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin was going to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and and James Rodriguez was going to light the league up, it's just very watery. It's very Everton, and like I think you know what, I'd actually be leaning on a Villa win if Jack Grealish was fit. I don't know what the hell is going on in Aston Villa, but it's just hilarious. I don't know if you lads are obviously saying you're mad into FPL. Where the fuck is Jack Grealish? Like, where is he? He was supposed to be on 25% or 75% 8 weeks ago. Like, it's just crazy how he's been out for so long, and I'm starting to worry about his chances of getting into the Euros, because for me, I genuinely had him as my number 2 player of the season this season behind Harry Kane. I thought he was absolutely immense. So without him, I think Villa are a bit handicapped. You're kind of dealing with, you're relying on El Ghazi and Bertrand Traore. Bertrand Traore is a bit of a maverick, but I mean, like, you need the ball into Ollie Watkins' feet. You need it onto his head, and I think Jack Grealish is the best guy for that. So with that kind of neutered attack, and just with Everton being Everton, I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to say it's got a draw written all over it. And you know what's funny too, lads? I was looking up the matches. I thought they'd played already.
Brian just said the point there completely. But they haven't played yet, so yeah, they're
crazy. They haven't played each other this season. It's so weird.
That's wild. It's wild. I think. I don't know. Yeah, obviously it was cancelled at the start of the season and never, because of COVID, like you said. I think it was a game that was going to be on the telly or something. But yeah, it's a bit mad altogether. Like, Sean, very quick word of Jack Grealish. Sorry, yeah, that's who I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. I think they probably rushed him back early, and I've seen he's been doing his own kind of individual thing, and I'm sure now they've a program tailored to easing him back before the Euros, because I'm sure Grealish is big on having that big summer with the Euro. So I'm sure he won't want to get pushed in too much, and he'll want to play 3 or 4 of the last games, because I think he's a shoe-in for the squad. But it's one of those games. It's going to be difficult to watch at times, because Everton are very difficult to watch at times. The Everton Arsenal game was appalling. Ancelotti's obviously an unbelievable manager. It's obviously the big plus that Everton have him. But he had an interesting press conference, which I won't go into too much, but I saw that he wanted to bring in salary caps. Now, considering I think he's the second most well-paid manager in the Premier League on 14 million, I think it'd be interesting to see, would he be willing to take a pay cut, and is that the only reason that he's in Everton, that he's enjoying the nice Merseyside, or is he enjoying the nice 14 million odd that he's getting? But anyway,
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
think his
thought it was
agent was too happy with those comments. We'll move on to Newcastle Arsenal. We'll go to you, Brian. I know we spoke a lot about Arsenal here, but I guess this is the game before the game, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Be interested to see what team he chucks out. Even though I think he's type of lad, he will still put a pretty strong team out. Like he'll be kind of packing it in. And like Newcastle are going really well at the moment. So I mean, I'd say he's like if he gets if instead of losing another game here, and then goes out and loses to Villarreal, like it's tough times for the club. So I'd say he'll play a pretty strong team, but I still think Newcastle have enough. Like they don't have Willock to get the customary goal in the last few minutes to get the result. So he's obviously can't play against the parent club thing. So I'd go for a 1-1 again. I don't think Arsenal have enough to win, and I think Newcastle are pretty resilient these days. So I think say Maximan will do a bit. Actually, I'll change it. I'll do 2-1 Newcastle.
Oh my God!
Are you wait? You're supposed to be an Arsenal fan, I thought.
That's my honest opinions here.
Oh my God!
See, you're talking to a 2-time champ going for 3 in a row, so you got to respect it. But I'm already worried.
He's all business. He's all business.
Let's just say Maximan running at like Pablo Mari. Like, come on, this absolutely nonsense.
That's a horror show, all right.
Conor, so that probably took you by surprise, but what are you going for here?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all, to be quite honest with you. Like, I thought I was on an all Arsenal podcast here. Jesus, imagine like Arsenal fan TV going against themselves. Like, Jesus. I'm going to go Arsenal, to be honest. I looked at the form again, the form sheet. I honest to God, forget like tonight's result. Forget what Arsenal have been like, in terms of being rocky. How many games against Newcastle last night? I think it's like 21, and they've won 17 of them. That is absolutely insane. And one of the draws they have is the 4-4. The 4-4 draw. That's one of the only draws. So like 10-0 to Newcastle.
And I watched that game. I think you did as well, Sean, on Gillette Soccer Saturday at the time. Yeah. So there was no stream. So we had to get the 4-4 reaction from
Diaby running around midfield.
It's crazy. But I'm. The only concern I have for Arsenal is I think Callum Wilson's 100% fit now. I think he scored a perfectly good goal last week. We won't talk about VAR because we'll take up the whole podcast. But I mean, like that was nuts. I thought just allowing that goal. But anyway, like that's the only thing I'd have that would be a bit of a scare for Arsenal. I mean, to touch on what Brian said as well, it is insane as well to be living in a world where I'm saying without Joe Willock, where are the goals coming from? But without wacky Willock there for Newcastle. But like I do think Arsenal, like for all their flaws, they should be good enough to be a Newcastle team. And I'm going to go with Arsenal. I think they'll probably win it. I'll go 2-1. I'd say Callum Wilson will take a goal, but I'll say 2-1 Arsenal. Yeah,
so Sean, I'll just instead of asking you a question, just get the comment. Newcastle 10, Arsenal 0. James Mode, Spurs fan says Steve Bruce coming back to haunt Sean Hussey just as he deserted him. Sean.
No, I think there's a nice celebration Steve had with Joe Willock there. He looked delighted. And then he had a little pop at Alan Shearer. I don't know if you saw that match of the day. It was pretty funny. But no, it was probably the scene of one of Unai Emery's great days. Joe Willock running back, making a tackle, him going mad, Aubameyang scoring opening day of the season, yellow jersey, and then it all kind of fell away for Unai Emery. But I'm sure we're going to see Tierney and maybe Aubameyang and try and get a bit of minutes into them. But you've got two sides who can produce anything on their day. I mean, Newcastle they're a good enough team to put it up to most sides in the league when they're on their day, but when they're off it, I mean, they are truly appalling, and the same can be said for Arsenal. So I don't know how you pick this game. Maybe 2-2.
Let's fly to the next couple. Well, we'll probably spend a bit of time on this one. Manchester United, Liverpool, Brian. This is a big-ish game. I suppose Liverpool's still going for that top 4. United, I know we kind of dominated with 3 Arsenal fans in the podcast, so maybe a little bit of United. I actually thought they were with the game. As I said, I was watching on the split screen, so I saw a good bit of United. It was the United commentary, unfortunately, and I know Roma were hopeless at times, but United are very impressive, and Cavani and Pogba and Bruno are linking up.
Yeah, I couldn't believe. I obviously watching the Arsenal match. I was flicking over to see the goals and stuff. But like, I couldn't believe in the 6th one went in. I was like, "What's going on?" I saw Roma lost 3 players in the first half. I think it was like 3 lads that went off. So I mean, that doesn't help. But look, fair play. They secured their spot and nice, relaxing week ahead of them. That they can just go out and do the job in Italy on Thursday. So they can play a strong team now against Liverpool. So. Yeah, I don't know. This match, it's United. There's no 0-0 in the big game. I was tempted to go for it, but now that the shackles be a bit off, they're kind of through in Europe. I think they might go for a bit more after better team playing. So I'll go for a 1-0 Hernandez United win.
Connor.
It's funny actually that he mentions Fernandez there, because I was only saying this to you the other day, but I run a few polls on my own page now, like just here and there, saying like, oh, who's the most creative player in the league? And I'd have De Bruyne and Grealish, and I'd have like, who's the best player in the league this season? Grealish and Kane. And everyone's in my DMs going, where's Bruno? And I find myself watching these big games, and I'm asking myself the same fucking question: where the fuck's Bruno? Where does he go? Like during these big matches, and I've watched him. I know people are going to come at me now and say, "Well, he's just after putting it in against Roma." Is Roma a big game? Do you know what I mean? I think this. I kind of agree with Brian as well in terms I think this has just got a boring game written all over it. Like what was it last time? I think it was 0-0 in the last one, wasn't it? And it was when Liverpool were on the down and United didn't have the cojones to go after them, and it just ended up being an absolute wet fart of a game. I think it's going to be something similar. Like I think it's going to be just a really bad match. Like Liverpool can't score is the big problem with them, which is just insane. You think about it. I know there's a lot of comments on Van Dijk and like that's a huge struggle they're having. They can't put the ball in the net. Like they can't score goals this year, and it's I've never seen something like it. Like everyone wants to rip on Timo Werner, and fair enough. Sadio Mane is having a worse season than Timo Werner potentially. Like he's been absolutely shocking. So I don't know where Liverpool are going to get the goals. And I don't know where United are going to get the bottle. I'd say probably a draw would be probably the best thing to go for. I was thinking to go for the 0-0 myself, as Brian was saying, but I'll go 1-1. I'll say like, yeah, we'll give Bruno a penalty in this one. We'll give Bruno a penalty, and we'll give Jota a goal. I'd say 1-1 would probably be the result. But it's always these like, and it's this ESL, like these big games. They're always the biggest letdowns. Like this will be, I think this,
especially Premier League. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it'll be a boring enough game. I'd say 1-0. I think they've drawn their last 3 in the league as well. And they played each other. So yeah.
Sean, is Connor a bit harsh on Bruno?
No, look, I think he's a goal scorer, and he's gets assists, but definitely he's, I don't think he's on the level of De Bruyne. I don't think he could influence a game like maybe De Bruyne has. I think of the game of the Bernabeu before lockdown, and De Bruyne was just unbelievable. But he definitely, he's there for the counter attacks. His decision making on the counter attacks is frightening. I don't know, Bruno. He's marked so highly because of what he's done, but I'm not sure if what will happen if a big club came in from like, United. Are they going to match what he wants? He seems like he's very demanding, and obviously that's a good thing in a player. But he's obviously a quality player. On the game, look, there's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be the Neville Carra show on Sky. It'll be interesting. Interesting because it's the ESL, and it's the meeting of the probably the 2 biggest clubs in England.
The Titans.
The two American Titans that are owned by big, guys who specialize in American sport, and in the Fenway Sport Group, and in the Glazers with the Tampa Bay Bucks. But it'll be interesting because you're going to have all this kind of Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher stuff about, United, Liverpool. It's about the working class cities, and here they are saying it on Sky, which are, everyone knows who they're owned by and who pays their wages. So I've seen a few tweets about that, but I think that's going to be more entertaining than the game, because Ole Gunnar's going to take a draw, and Klopp just doesn't know what's coming out of his Liverpool players. And if they play Kabak alongside Alexander Arnold, I mean, Greenwood and Rashford could kill him. I would fancy Greenwood to score just on the form he's at the moment. So maybe United nick a win, but I think it'd be more interesting listening to all that stuff, and maybe if there is a protest around the ESL. But it's one of those games. It flatters to deceive a lot. It's a big game on merit, but it's not delivered in the last 3 or 4 years. I can't think of a good game. Maybe going back even to Gerrard's time in the 4-1 at Old Trafford. But
the FA Cup game was good, but I mean, like, you wonder, like, I mean, how much are we really in? And this is coming from a guy who's got a team in the FA Cup final, but how much are we really invested in FA Cup games at this present time? Like, but like that was the only one. I think it was 3-2 to United or something like that. But aside from that,
but even still, I thought it was, there wasn't a lot of quality until Fernandes got on it, and it's just an interesting one. I think, look, United's attacking power should overcome. United should absolutely win this, and if it doesn't, there'll still be a question mark around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I was laughing at Tottenham fan James Moe. He said dreading the next game just as you were talking. So looked down to remind myself who Spurs were playing, thinking that they'd have a tough game, and it's Sheffield United at home. So this is really going to test the anti-Tottenham podcast here, Brian. So we'll go to you, Spurs versus Sheffield United. Think very carefully here. Help us out.
Yeah, I was going to go for the Spurs win, but all that piping up from Shane or from James there, I just actually don't want to do it. So I'll go for a 1-1. I think that game last year, that might have finished 1-0, or else they were robbed of 1-0.
Yeah, it was 1-0.
Yeah, and they should have got a VAR out, or Dinty got a VAR out goals now. So yeah, look, they're on the resurgence. Lovely win against Graham Potter's men. So yeah, 1-0. Spurs have a poor game. Poor old Ryan Mason. 1-0. Sorry, James.
Wow, I'm sure he'll be back in the comments, Connor.
I think the question is how many goals is Harry Kane going to get? To be quite honest with you, I'm not looking at it the same way. Like I look at that Sheffield United team, and like, you know what's funny? Like, people talk about like teams getting afflicted by injury. Has there ever been a more devastating injury? And it's going to sound crazy than Jack O'Connell to that fucking Sheffield United team. Like, they literally, their whole style of play is out the window without him there to defend and without Dean Henderson in the nets. They've just been abysmal this season, and I think that's a game there Harry Kane and Son Heung-min can just absolutely feast on Sheffield United. I will say though, Ryan Mason in charge, like, is there, like, that is one of the funniest decisions I've ever seen in my life. It's basically like going like, right lads, the manager couldn't make it this week, you go ahead and just kind of figure it out yourselves. Like, I mean, the 29-year-old lad, like, no experience. It's absolutely crazy to me that he's in charge, but this should be a game that he can win and improve on his stellar record and go 2-1. So I think Tottenham will absolutely, as bad as they are, they're actually still in the top 4 race, which is also almost a storyline itself. I can't believe they're that close. I think if they win and Chelsea lost, they'd only be like a point or two behind Chelsea in 4th, which is just bizarre. But I'll go Tottenham 4-1. I'd say Harry Kane get 2 goals, and they should make light work of Sheffield. If they don't, though, I still won't be surprised.
Sean?
Yeah, no, the cup final, I mean, Jamie Carragher's analysis was unbelievable, coupled with what Jamie O'Hara was saying. I mean, it was just, I know the way Arsenal being terrible, but it was just absolutely brilliant. I mean, it got me through the week listening to Jamie Carragher, what he said about the Spursy and not anti-Spurs and all this. It was brilliant. But on this, I'm going, Sheffield United are down, but they're battling away. They had a great win against Brighton. I'm not even going to just say Sheffield United are going to get results. I'm going to say Ryan Brewster's going to score. I was going to back him last week.
Sorry, this is put across Sean. Yeah, Ryan Brewster, who Sean slated when they signed him, saying he won't do it for Sheffield United. Now he's going to say that on Tottenham away, he's going to deliver for this one game and one game only.
Because when a team goes down and they're down, a few of their players just score goals. I mean, Didsy scored. I was hoping Brewster would score last week, but I'm going to say Brewster's going to get a chance. He's going to gobble it up. He's going to score his first Premier League goal. And poor old Ryan Mason.
I'm sure James, I think he's on a slight delay. He'll come back in a minute. West Brom Wolves, final 2 games. Connor, into you. Big Sam. Tell us a little bit about Big Sam and then how this game's going to go.
I actually feel bad for Big Sam because I think it's the first time he's not going to be able to deliver on actually saving the day. It just seems like it's too far away for West Brom at this stage. I would say though, in terms of West Brom, like they've had what a few weeks it's been. I was only talking to one of the lads there and saying, like, in the last 4 weeks, West Brom have scored 10 goals and Burnley have scored 9 goals. Like, where would you ever hear that? Like, that is absolutely bizarre. Look, West Brom battling for their lives. We go back to Sean's point earlier saying about Southampton on the beach. Again, another team absolutely margaritas in hand. Like, Wolves just couldn't give a hoot at the moment. Like, I'm actually I have to say, as a man who's a big Nuno guy and I'm a big Wolves guy, like, I think they've been abysmal this year. Like, I really have, even without Jimenez. And I know Jimenez is the fulcrum of the team. When you've got a player like Daniel Podence and you've got a winger like Neto, when you've got those 2 guys in your team, it shouldn't matter if you're missing around Jimenez. You should be able to get the goods anyway. And they've just been so lackluster. I think, I don't think West Brom will stay up, but I think they're still battling for something. At least they're fighting for something. I think Wolves are fighting for absolutely nothing. I think they just kind of want this season to be over. Like, the amount of injuries they've had, the bad luck they've had, Neto's out, Podence out, Jimenez out, Johnny Otto's out again with an ACL, which is just terrible. I'll go for a West Brom win. I'll take West Brom 1-0. I'll just go 1-0. Scrape the result. I just don't see who's going to score for, like, I don't know. I just don't see how Wolves would do it, and like I just know that West Brom need to do it. So I'll take the West Brom win.
All right, into you, Brian. Are you going to take on Big Sam here and is resurging in form under West Brom?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Big Sam all the way. I had them down for a 2-0 win. So I think, 2-0. I think they scored a lot of goals, as you were saying there, Connor. They're banging them in recently. So yeah, I think 2-0 Pereira get a few. Wolves, I mean, just absolutely destroyed by Chris Wood the other day.
It's crazy.
It was just a Burnley town. I've had a go with them in the past, but fair play, they put on a show the other day. Exactly what you're saying. Wolves are just on the beach, they're chilling out. I echo what you say. I've hated them ever since that Arsenal away game. They're gone down in my estimations. I couldn't care less about them. They've been boring. Obviously, Uriah Jimenez breaks his head. Like, fair enough. It's difficult about that, but I just think they're just boring to watch. And they've been unlucky at times, but no, I'm done with them now. My relationship's over at Wolves. So I think 2-0 West Brom, comfortable enough.
Yeah, Sean, you were slating Wolves a fair few weeks ago now at this stage.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I think they've been really lackluster, and I think it's one of them where has the manager just naturally run its course. Be interesting to see what they do in the summer, because they spent quite a lot of money on young players and kind of infrastructure, and I think probably O'Silva was 30 million now. I think you got to keep the manager on because the manager's obviously seeing something, or is the club buying it? But I think with West Brom, if they do win it, Big Sam will have done the double over Wolves, which is obviously the big derby, West Brom and Wolves. But God, like, I don't that goal to concede in the what was it, the 92nd minute was a killer for West Brom, because you would have given them a chance because they've gone into a big derby game. But yeah, I wouldn't know what to say on Wolves anymore.
Final game, and I've got a question in the comments I'll come to now, so we're going to fly through this. The Claret Derby here, Burnley versus West Ham. Into you, Brian. Burnley Town.
Yeah, the Claret Derby. Burnley Town, yeah. What performance, as I was saying, against Wolves, playing against Moisey Boy, who they've lost 2 in the bounce. So, what will I go for? I will go for a 1-1 draw. I think Burnley will be fairly solid and get their Chris Wood go, and I think West Ham are just hitting that dip at the wrong time. So, I think Sean Dyche can do a job. 1-1.
Yeah, Connor, into you quickly enough on Burnley West Ham final game.
You say the Claret Derby, I say the Park Celtic Derby.
Yes.
I'm going to go actually with West Ham. I think they've been unlucky. I mean, like, without Declan Rice, it's very tough for them. Like, he's a huge loss, and no Mikel Antonio. But I just think, like, I don't think Burnley have won a game at home for 6 games or something, which is just insane. And West Ham are still pushing on for top 4, which again is insane to say. I'll go 2-1. 2 Jesse Lingard goals, 1 Chris Wood goal, and we'll leave it at 2-1.
Jay Lings lives on the podcast. Sean, brief enough.
Yeah, no, it's a massive game for West Ham. They've been really good at beating these sides this season, but could be a good game. I think there could be goals in this one.
So we'll do the minute of the quickest goal, Connor, this weekend as the tiebreaker.
I'll go similar to the Arsenal. Was it 4 minutes 30 today? I'll go 4 minutes. 4 minutes 30 seconds.
4 minutes.
Nice and early.
4 minutes 30 seconds. So I'm going to give you the 5th minute then. All right.
Yeah.
Brian.
Go say maximum 8 minutes.
You hate your club, man.
And here's a Graham Brewster 12 from Sean. Quick question, lads. In one word, flat final. We got Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans on the podcast. Sean, Olivier Giroud, is he overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
Well, he's won a World Cup, so it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. I think he's a little bit overrated. I don't think he'll ever be a striker who'll win you a league.
There's a man who spent years watching Olivier Giroud. You watched the Monaco game, obviously, Sean. Connor.
I've watched a few times.
I know the Arsenal fans are still very, very upset with Mesut Ozil not getting his assist record because of Olivier Giroud, but the fact still remains the guy is an absolute elite level baller. Like, he really is. Like, playing for France in a World Cup, as long as he's playing off a top striker.
The only reason he was playing was because Benzema was playing away from home himself. So
would you stop? And was he not good during that World Cup? Like, they've loads of options to put in instead of Giroud, but they picked like Martial wasn't at the World Cup, was he? I mean, like, the guy, I don't know. Look at that goal against Sevilla. Look at the 4 goals he got against. Sorry, look at the goal against Atletico Madrid and the 4 goals he got against Sevilla. If that's not a world class striker, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, do you know what I mean?
Underrated, Conor.
Underrated for sure. I mean, people like, that's the thing. People just kind of chalk him off and they say like, oh, well, he didn't do it at this thing. The guy is 32, 33 years old and he's still doing the business. I actually liken him a lot to Edin Dzeko for Roma tonight. Like, it doesn't matter at the age, like fucking like a fine wine, Olivier Giroud. He's still getting better. And I think if he goes somewhere next season, Inter Milan or whatever, he'd still do the business.
Brian, I'm interested in your answer here.
Yeah, if anyone who knows me knows he's one of my favorite players probably of the last 10 years. I absolutely love him. I absolutely love Drew. I put him in the top 5. I think you can have a go about his goal scoring and whatever. Like, obviously he's a striker, he's there to score goals at the end of the day, but his touches, his knockdowns, his just 1-2 play, like
the scorpion kick.
Yeah, that alone, like I don't know. I just think the build up play. No, he's offside for that one. The little one touches, like just the 1-2. That Jack Wilshere goal of forever, obviously be one of the best goals ever scored. I think he's always really in that goal. I absolutely love Giroud. So what about bad words out of them?
Sean, I see you fuming, but look, we're running out of time. I'm going to say I'll leave you a simmer on that. You won't get to sleep tonight thinking that.
Good question,
I've watched the Monaco. It is a great question. I've watched the Monaco game too many times as well. I'm going to go for he's properly rated. I think people think he's so underrated. I think there's an appreciation that he's a really good striker for a certain team. And for example, the way Chelsea play sometimes it suits. So I'm going to sit in the fence, and I get a lot of views for sitting in the fence. But properly rated is the correct answer.
It was a good sign-up for Ard. Like, it was 12 million, good sign-up, but he's not in the top 20 strikers to ever play. He's not an elite striker. He was never an elite striker.
You enjoy watching, like.
Yeah, but like I'd enjoy someone who scored 30 goals a year, not 15. Like,
he makes
sell him for 20 million.
He makes other players play better, and that's the mark of a very good player. Like, people around him when they're playing with him look even 10 times better than they actually are. She made Pedro and Willian look fucking unbelievable in some games for Chelsea. Like,
there's a podcast on that, Olivier Giroud, overrated, properly rated.
Mankel has
I'll try and get that. Dan sit on the fence. We'll see James just commented here. But that's it, lads. Thanks a million for joining us live on YouTube. The podcast is available on full tomorrow on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, we'd really appreciate a like and subscribe to the channel. It's thanks to Brian and Conor. We'll see one of you guys next week.
Thanks for having me, man.
And we'll see you as always, Sean.
Good luck.
And that's it. Take it easy at Tackling Sports social media, and have a great weekend. Enjoy the football.